reports came out yesterday that the San Antonio Spurs and LaMarcus Aldridge had mutually agreed to find a trade partner, and now it means every team is trying to get LaMarcus Aldridge. Well, not every team, but a lot of the teams are, especially the contending ones. And what do you think is the best fit for Aldridge? This year, he's averaging 13.7 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, shooting 46% from the field and 36% from three. But last year, he averaged 19 and shot 38% from three. He is not a modern big. He's a mid-range player. So I don't know where he really fits. He's never been a great defender, but he's still a valuable player, I think, and can help a lot of teams. But where do you see him going?
Maybe I'm going a little storybook here, but this just feels like the perfect move for me. Bring him back home to the Portland Trail Blazers. I know Damian Lillard has been a huge advocate of getting him back to Portland over the past couple seasons since he left. And Portland is, I feel like, still looking for that one extra spark to put them in that conversation with, maybe the Jazz. I don't know if they can get there, and I don't know if LaMarcus Aldridge is the piece to do it. But any spark that they can get would help. I think LaMarcus Aldridge, the way he's been playing in San Antonio, on top of the role that he would take in Portland, he wouldn't have to be the number 2 guy there. He could be a number 4 or 5 option for them coming off the bench. So I feel like he could provide them a nice boost offensively. He knows the system. He knows the place. It would be a seamless transition, and the guys want him back there. So even if it's for nothing but the veteran leadership, I think he would be a nice addition for them.
As much as I would like the Portland reunion, they can't trade for him.
Yeah.
It's going to be extremely tough to trade for him.
His money is...
The contracts do not match at all. Because of that, I don't think he goes back to Portland unless he gets bought out. But before I give my take, I love LaMarcus Aldridge in Portland. I love, when I played 2K, I love playing with Batum, Brandon Roy, Aldridge, Andre Miller. Those are my guys. I love Portland. But
if Brandon Roy had stayed healthy, we might be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. LaMarcus Aldridge, where he ends up, for me, this just screams Boston Celtics. I don't think any other team can make a move like Boston right now. Aldridge has a huge contract. We know that. But the Celtics have a huge trade exception. And they have some young players who have been underwhelming so far that they can use as potential trade bait. Look at guys like Romeo Langford, who hasn't played much for the Celtics, if at all. Carson Edwards. Maybe they could trade them and some picks. Semi Ojeleye. Maybe they could trade Semi Ojeleye. Even though I like Semi Ojeleye, he could be a part of the trade. Would they be willing to move off from Aaron Nesmith to get LaMarcus Aldridge? He's been disappointing so far, but we aren't sure because he's still a young player. He still has room to grow. But I just think LaMarcus Aldridge to the Celtics, it just makes perfect sense. The Magic have came out and said that, listen, we're not going to trade Vucevic. They've pretty much said that they are planning to keep Nikola Vucevic, which is a player that the Celtics were targeting. LaMarcus Aldridge is very similar to Vucevic. He can rebound, he can score, and when you look at Boston, they don't have a true center. They are a very small team. Even though Aldridge isn't a great defender, he adds some size. He's 6'11". He's 6'11", but closer to 7 foot, so he's a true big man. And that's exactly what the Boston Celtics are missing. You look at the other teams in the running, maybe Miami Heat, but it's going to take a lot for them to match contracts. But so for me, I think there are only 2 reasonable trade destinations, and that's Boston and Miami. Every other destination has to happen via buyout. If the Boston Celtics don't jump on this opportunity, I think they are fools for it, because it seems like every year we're waiting on Boston to make a splash move. Make that one move that is going to make the roster at least better. They're not going to trade for John Collins, at least I don't think so. They're not going to trade for Vucevic. Who's the next best player? It's LaMarcus Aldridge. This just screams Boston Celtics to me, and I would be shocked if he's not in a Celtics uniform in a month or so.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think Vucevic would have been the perfect fit for them. Filling that needed center, bringing that punch of offense. He's a solid defender. He's a playmaker at the 5 position. I really feel like he would have been the perfect guy to fit that hole. And if they had gotten Vooch, I would have had them right up near the top of the Eastern Conference. Maybe not at the same level as those top 3 teams, but I definitely could have seen them pulling off an upset if they had gone out and gotten a player like him. But regardless, if that's off the table, they got to find a way to fill that hole that they have down low. I don't think that Tristan Thompson or Daniel Tice is cutting it down there for them. Although I don't know LaMarcus Aldridge is the best option, I do think he could be a solid option to come in, give them another scoring option outside of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and bring in some veteran leadership to that locker room that seems to be lacking some of that. I know they've had some issues this season with, in the post game with, some anger in the locker room. Maybe LaMarcus Aldridge can come in and bring a cool veteran mind to that locker room. So I don't think it would be a bad move at all. And you mentioned it. Every year I feel like they're in on big-time names, whether it's on the trade market, on the free agent market, and they just never pull the trigger. So you have to wonder when Danny Ainge is going to start to feel some of that heat.
Exactly. It seems like every year we are waiting on them to make a move, and while I don't think Aldridge is that big splash move, if they get him, that's going to be one of the biggest moves they've made in years. I mean, what is another move similar to that? There really isn't any.
I guess you could say getting Kemba Walker in free agency, but that hasn't panned out.
Yeah, I mean, we thought they were all in the running. They were in the running for James Harden a little bit.
Yeah.
For Kawhi, for Anthony Davis.
They got Kyrie. That didn't work out.
Yeah,
they got Al Horford. That didn't work out. So.
Every single player that has been available via trade, Boston's name is always in the mix, and they never pull the trigger. I think they should do it this time with LaMarcus Aldridge. It just makes too much sense at this point.